Hello and welcome back to another idBeCoolif, where everything is made up and the ideas don't matter. I'm MfPallytime, filling in for your normal host Carbot, and it would be cool if Deathwing was in Heroes of the Storm. Now, just in case you're not up to speed with the biggest dragon in the history of Warcraft, well, all you really need to know is he went to sleep underground this one time, got woken up a little bit later, and kind of broke everything around him. You know, he was just a little grumpy, that's understandable, but then everyone started throwing around words like, oh no, it's a cataclysm, and it was really just all completely blown out of proportion. A real PR nightmare for Deathwing. Now, when Carbot asked me to do this video, I put a lot of thought into this. I really nerded out. So before we talk about the abilities, I just have to establish a baseline to go off of here. Deathwing is big. Think of the biggest hero currently in the game and then stop doing that because you can't even come close to the actual size of Deathwing. Because of his massive size, he's gonna need a lot of health to go along with that. Way more than any other character in the game. Deathwing is gonna have some trouble getting around though. You know, with all this size, it becomes a little bit more difficult to maneuver. He won't be like most characters where you can just instantly turn around if you click in the opposite direction. Deathwing's gonna kind of have a turn radius like a cruise ship. It's gonna take him a minute to turn around, but man, once he gets going, you better be afraid. The good news is, though, that he's always going to be flying above the ground. So things like trees and walls, you could just kind of fly right over them. They don't get in his way. Alright, now that that's out of the way, Deathwing's trait is actually a two-parter. First and foremost, Deathwing has a massive amount of armor because after all, he's completely covered in this stuff. I'm thinking about a 75% damage reduction will do the trick, and that might seem a little OP, but just keep in mind, he's Deathwing. The second part of his trait, every time he takes a certain amount of damage, he will spawn corrupted bloods, just like he did on the spine of the Deathwing fight! These happy little balls of blood will slowly chase after nearby enemies and explode, dealing a small amount of damage to them. The idea is that one or two of these corrupted bloods is no big deal and you don't have to worry about it, but if you let them start to pile up as you're dealing damage to Deathwing, they can completely overrun you. He doesn't have a traditional mount because, as I mentioned before, he's always going to be flapping his wings flying around, but what he can do is on a very long cooldown, because it'd be way too OP if he could just do it all the time, he can fly to any building that is still standing. Destroyed buildings won't work because there's nothing to land on, but because of his massive size, when he lands on these structures, he is going to deal a little bit of damage to him just because, you know, all that weight laying down on them. They're not made for that kind of strain. Now, this applies to both enemy buildings and friendly buildings. But if he does land on an enemy building, he will be targeted by them, and he will take damage. But as a result, he's going to be spawning these corrupted bloods out from the side, so he's going to be kind of dealing siege damage back to them. Deathwing's Q ability is called Dragon's Breath, and it's about as generic as it sounds, I'm not going to lie. Deathwing will breathe fire on a location and then be able to move that around a little bit, kind of like how Alarak draws his telekinesis, except this is with fire. If he uses his mount ability to climb on top of a building, then the range and the width of this fire is going to be increased. This is a pretty basic ability, but it's also his most spammable ability and the main source of his damage. Deathwing's W ability is Dragon's Roar. This will cause every non-hero around Deathwing to run in fear. Because of course they have to go running to tell everybody that there's another cataclysm coming. Heroes affected by Dragon's Roar will be slowed for 40% for 3 seconds. Even though they may not be afraid of the dragon, he's still really loud and, you know, it just kind of startles them a little bit. This actually brings a lot of good synergy to Deathwing's kit. It makes it easier for him to land his Dragon's Breath, but it also lets those cute little corrupted bloods catch up to their enemies a little bit faster. Deathwing's E ability is Barrel Roll. Wait a minute. Falstad already has that, so, let's go with Dragon's Barrel Roll. Yeah, that'll do. Deathwing will travel in a short distance in a straight line, doing a barrel roll, but because it's a Dragon's Barrel Roll, it'll leave a little bit of fire on the ground for like 4 seconds. A really long cooldown, though. He needs some mobility, but not a lot. Like, he should feel really difficult to kill, not very difficult to catch. Now for the good stuff, one of Deathwing's heroic options has to be the Dragon Cataclysm. Simply put, it deals damage to everything. Deathwing will stop what he's doing, fly up above the map, and then completely cover everything with fire! Everything that the enemies have ever cared about will take damage. Players, buildings, minions, you name it, that Deathwing over there, he just heard it. Now at level 20, the variant could be that, you know, as he covers the map with fire and burns everything your enemies ever cherished, it also leaves like patches of fire on the ground that last for a couple minutes or whatever the cooldown of the ability is. So if enemies don't avoid these hot spots around the map, they'll continue to take damage over time. The second option for his level 10 ability is called the Dragon's Dragon Soul. Remember that pesky Dragon Soul? Thrall along with the other members of the Black Dragon... That's so hard to say. Thrall along with all the... God, gotta learn to write better. What's happening? Remember that pesky Dragon Soul? Thrall along with the members of the Dragonflight used it to shoot Deathwing down from the sky that one time. Well, Thrall lost it, and Deathwing found it on his way into the Nexus, and then made it better. Because, of course, the Dragon Soul can only affect dragons, but this is the Dragon's Dragon Soul. I just made it up. Just bear with me. While using the Dragon's Dragon Soul, Deathwing will once again fly over the map where he cannot be reached. That's a common theme here with his heroic abilities. But instead of dealing damage to everything your enemies have ever loved, he will pinpoint his hatred on a single area, focusing a giant beam of energy down from the heavens with the Dragon's Dragon Soul that the player can control. It's slow moving, but you can manually control the pathing of the beam for the next 10 seconds or so, allowing you to potentially take out that high priority target that's been bothering your team, or at least try to force them out of the fight. At level 20, the variant can be that it has a bigger width, or a slow built in as well, making it easier to chase down those pesky little carries. Now, I had a lot of fun coming up with these ideas. Obviously, this could have been a little better thought out. I've been trying to campaign to get Deathwing actually added to the game for a couple years now. It's kind of my inside joke whenever I talk to developers. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts about this. These are just my ideas. Please go easy on me. I'm new here. It's my first time. I'm a giant fan of Carbot, though. I've always wanted to work with them in some capacity, and I'm really excited that I was able to do it today. If you guys want to check out my content, he said I could plug my channel here. Holy crap. I'm at youtube.com/MfPallytime. I play Heroes of the Storm and other games, and I generally try to be good at them and fall short sometimes, and try to make you better at them by watching those videos that I make. So if that sounds interesting, then you can go over there. But don't forget to like and subscribe to Carbot too, because without him, I wouldn't be here, and that's important. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all around.